G'day, Brendan here with the Cargo Bike crew, and we're back again talking about trikes. Today we're going to do a bit of a head-to-head battle between trikes and front loader cargo bikes. So on the left side here we've got a Nahola Gen 2 family. We borrowed this from Dutch Cargo, done about 250 k's on it in the last few weeks. And on the right here we've got an Urban Arrow family. This is our own bike. We've done nearly 10,000 k's in approximately 2 years, so we've got a good basis for comparison here. So we won't actually compare the two bikes directly features wise. We're going to just have a look at the differences between 2 wheels and 3 wheels on cargo bikes. So we'll compare size, cargo hauling capabilities, speed and handling, ride quality and maintenance costs. Alright, let's start with size. So your trikes are generally going to be shorter and wider. So this Nahola is 200 centimeters long. It's a 2-seater. You can get slightly shorter ones down to about 180 centimeters long, and then a 4-seater is going to run you up to about 230, 240 centimeters long. And the width, because you've got the 2 wheels on the side, somewhere between 85 and 90 centimeters wide. A front loader, on the other hand, would be longer and narrower. So this Urban Arrow family is 260 centimeters long and it's about 70 centimeters wide. The reasonable to carry is a compact front loader that I reviewed recently, and that's about 210 centimeters long and it's about 65 centimeters wide, maybe 62 centimeters wide. So that's the general range that you'll get, and these two bikes are pretty much bang on the average size. Fun fact, actually, these two bikes have very similar seat widths for the kids, so the seat pad itself is 55 centimeters wide. What does this mean in the real world? Well, with a trike, you're probably gonna stick to wider paths, wider roads. If you've got lots of narrow paths or bollards on your local bike infrastructure, you're gonna be a little bit limited on where you're gonna go. On the other hand, a front loader cargo bike, because it's narrower, you're going to be passing people on the shared path much easier. You don't need to watch where your wheels are going. You can avoid bollards and things like that, and you can squeeze through tight gaps in traffic. And one more thing to note, just because of their overall size, it can be a little bit tricky parking them in your standard bike stands out on the street. I haven't had too much trouble. It just takes a little bit of manoeuvring, and I've been able to lock both of these bikes up with a D-lock to keep them nice and safe. All right, next up is cargo hauling. So actually fitting cargo and kids in these bikes does depend on the manufacturer, what sort of things you got fitted into the box, but generally it's pretty easy with these box bikes to just dump stuff into there. Much easier than, say, a long-tail cargo bike. Cargo-specific versions of either a trike or a front-loader cargo bike, they'll just have a flat floor, so it makes it easy to just strap cargo onto that, or make it easy to customise a box or something to go on the front. Maximum allowable weight on both these styles is pretty similar. So the Nahola here, the maximum weight is 230 kilos. On the Urban Arrow, it's 250 kilos, so that's pretty close. And with trikes you can get heavy duty versions, so there's a Nahola Combo, which is the wheelchair taxi version that can carry up to 300 kilos maximum load. But in reality the biggest difference is actually setting off with that heavy load. So the front loader needs to be held steady, so you've got the kickstand, or you need to use your hands and feet to actually hold it steady. And then when you get started, when you're pushing the bike off, when you've got 30 or 40 kilos in the box, it's usually okay. When you get closer to 80 or 100 kilos, that's when it starts to get tricky. You need to really hold the bike steady, and you need to put a bit of strength in it to lift it off the stand. And then to actually get it back onto the stand, on our Urban Arrow, I've fitted a handle on the back, so it makes it easy to lift the weight up onto the stand. But yeah, conversely, the trike is actually one of the easiest things to set off under heavy load. Basically, release the parking brake and pedal, and away you go. This also applies when you're stopped at traffic lights, so you can just pull, hold the brakes, and then sit on the saddle. You don't need to do anything. Other things like offset loads, so you've got a 2-year-old on one side, 7-year-old on the other. There's a bit of a difference in weight. On a front loader, you can feel the bike leaning over and maybe pulling to one side. Maybe you've got a tent and some folding chairs or something like that. Doesn't really matter, but you can feel that difference. On the trike, it doesn't really matter if your cargo's offset or if you've got lots of wobbly cargo, it stays nice and stable. All right, next up, let's look at speed and handling. So with the trike, you've got 3 tyres touching the ground. It does mean there's a little bit more rolling resistance. You need a bit more power to go at the same speed. But because of the 2 front tyres, your braking traction is going to be really, really good. So the braking force is going to be shared between those 2 front tyres. If you're on a low traction wet road or gravel road, even snow or ice, something like that, in an emergency you grab a handful of brakes. When it's not really fast, that braking force is shared between the 2 front tyres. It's less likely that you're going to skid. And the other thing is, because you've got 2 wheels up the front, if you do skid, there's no risk of the front just falling out from underneath you like on a front loader cargo bike. At low speeds, no issue. Walking pace or slower than that even, you really don't need too much strength or skill to keep the bike going. Even if you got lots of heavy cargo or you got wobbly kids in the front, it's just a really relaxing ride. High speeds, however, the handling does get a little bit iffy if you try and corner too quickly. There is a bit of a risk of tipping if you're going at speed and you're trying to go around corners. So yeah, it just doesn't feel as agile as the front loader when cornering. It's a little bit better when it's loaded up and it keeps a little bit of weight on the front there to slow down that tipping. Yeah, so with the front loader, it's a really nice bike to ride long distances. One of the longest rides I've done on the Urban Arrow is 80 kilometers in one day. That was a super comfortable ride, no issues whatsoever. The downside is low speed handling. To balance a bike like this, especially with heavy loads at low speed, it takes a lot of concentration and really good balance and strength. With practice, it does get better, but it's just one of those things that you need to get used to. However, high speed handling, I feel so confident in the cornering on this bike. It is better with the load on the front, like I said earlier, gives a bit more traction to that front tyre, but it's much nicer to ride fast around corners compared to the trike. Just one of the downsides that I mentioned earlier is in emergency situations, if you don't have a lot of weight up the front, you can lock up the front tyre quite easily. All right, let's get on to ride quality. So with the trike, you've got 1, 2, 3 tracks. So as you're riding along, there's 3 chances that you might hit a pothole or a rock or cracks in the road or sticks or whatever. So you're more likely to hit something along the track. And then when you do, the bike does bump you from side to side and also up and down. So you get a little bit of movement side to side and up and down. It can get a little bit tiring or give you a really good core workout. And it's just a little bit tiring at high speeds. On the other hand, the front loader, it runs in a single track. So if you're avoiding something with the front tyre, you're probably going to miss it with the back as well. If you do hit something, the force is basically just up, straight up and down. So you can absorb those forces with your legs, sort of bend your knees a little bit as you're going over bumps. So as an example with the trike, if I'm going over curb cuts, along bumpy bridges or down driveways, I'll find I'll slow down a lot more just because it'll bump you around a lot on those bumps. With the front loader, I'll just take things at an angle, maybe stand up off the saddle and bend my knees just to absorb that force, but you can take bumps much faster on the front loader. Finally, maintenance costs. So with a trike, you've got 3 wheels compared to 2 on the front loader, so that just means you've got an extra tyre, extra brake pad and rotor when they wear out. Trikes tend to wear out front tyres quite quickly just due to the side loading on those front wheels as you're cornering. Brake wear is ultimately going to come down to your load and riding conditions. So if you're carrying heavy loads, riding in the rain a lot, riding on dirt roads or gravel tracks a lot, you're going to wear out the brakes a lot faster than if you're only a drier weather rider with light loads in your box. All right, let's do a quick summary. For a similar cargo box size, trikes are going to be shorter and wider compared to a long and narrow front loader. They're both very capable carrying heavy loads in excess of 250 kilos. The trike is going to be a little bit easier to ride with those heavy loads, a little bit more relaxing, and they can be spec'd up to 300 kilos. Speed and handling, front loaders for long distance rides and high speed cornering, it can't be beaten. Low speed handling can be a little bit tricky. Trikes on the other hand, got really good low speed handling, nice and relaxing, and braking traction on slippery roads is really good. Just not so great high speed handling. Ride quality on a trike, you get bumped around a little bit more, jostled around on rough surfaces, compared to the front loader where you just got that bumping up and down motion. And maintenance costs just a little bit higher on the trike. So yeah, let us know down in the comments which one you would choose for your situation. Hope you liked this comparison. Give us a thumbs up if you did, and please subscribe for more videos from the Cargo Bike crew. See you next time. Cheers.